Hi BookTube and happy Monday. I wanted to catch you up on all the books I've been reading this last week and a half or so. I read a total of 13 books so far, so like I always say, I don't want to get too far ahead and not updating you because then it's just too many. Little side note is that because I'm participating in the Deck of TBR-thon where you draw a card and it gives you the prompt to pick a book, I have decided going forward, so my next reading wrap up of the week, I'll be doing it day to day. So like I'll show you the prompt in the book I'm reading and then do like a review, and I'll just like go throughout the week with that because I thought it would be fun. Because all of these books were picked by random luck of the draw with the card. But I have been doing along with Deck of TBR. I don't know why it's so hard for me to say that. I've been, of course, participating in GarbAugust, where you read like the trashy literature, and I've been participating in Oldest August, where I am reading the oldest books on my shelves. So without further ado, let's get into it. Like I said, next week I will do like show you the card with the book and like go throughout. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of prompts, and I can't remember exactly what each of these were. But there's all sorts of prompts here from this like deck of TBR, and there's like related to your last book, on your owned TBR shelf, the longest book like 400, 500, 600 pages, a book that the hosts have read, a random read, format like it's audiobook, ebook, physical book, things like that, and then items on the cover, books in a series. There's all assortment of prompts. I just want to like briefly mention where I was getting some of these because yeah, I didn't record the card with the book, but I do have it recorded on Instagram because I saw people were doing the stories. So for the first time ever, I figured out how to do Instagram stories because I guess I don't know technology that well. Because I just like when I do post anything on Instagram, I just like put it in your normal post. But for this, I've been like doing the stories. So it's basically, I'm sure the hosts are sick of me because I've been like, doing it with the hashtags or mentions or whatever. So I've been posting almost daily on all the books I've been getting through. So if you get, yeah. Anyway, next week will be better. So I'll start with the coffee table book. This is a book I got from a library book sale years and years ago. It's just like these I mentioned before when I was doing our TBR. I think. Sorry if you can hear this like chewing. Fable's right beside me, chomping away on one of her bones. Actually, it's not a bone. It's a they're called, I think it's called yak cheese sticks or something. They're hard, like a rawhide kind of thing, but they're made of yak cheese. So she loves them because I took her one time into like a pet store, and she she picked out her treat, and so ever since then, whether she's with me or not, I've just gotten them for her because she loves them. So yeah, tangent there, but yes. So the coffee table books just linger on my shelf, and so even though I really wanted to get to this one, so this is all about a man who he's living in British Columbia, and I realized I didn't tell you the title. This is The Last Wild Wolves, Ghosts of the Rainforest by Ian McAllister. He wrote, and he also took all the photography, and he talks about his journey with not befriending the wolves, but like having them get used to his presence. Some of them did. There was one in particular, and then so there's like two different packs. One that's like by the rivers, and the other that's by the ocean. And so yeah, there's just like tons and tons of photography, and let's see if I can find some more here. So there's one wolf that is always staring at him, and Ernest is his name. And the caption here says, Ernest pays full attention in his role as the gatekeeper of the fish trap pack. So yeah, I just love this picture here. And then when I was flipping through it, there's actually a CD on the back. Because I think he was producing maybe a show as well. Or this might be more pictures. I don't know because I don't have a CD player. So, but it's remarkable that it's still in this book because like it doesn't have the dust jacket, and yet it has a CD. Okay, so I got that out of the way. So I'm gonna reverse gears completely and talk about the GarbAugust picks. For GarbAugust, I am reading Sweet Valley High books for like gigantic, long-running, ghost-written series that's full of like teenage high school drama. And then I'm reading Janet Ivanovich books, or her most recent book, number 30. And then I am reading category romance. the Janet and Vaughn mentioned the category romance I am saving for when I go on my work trip, because that's when I'm going to be reading solely ebooks. So up until then, these first 3 weeks of August, I'm picking from my shelf. So that's why you won't see those other GarbAugust picks yet. So for the Sweet Valley High, I read Sweet Valley High Senior Year, Say It to My Face by Francine Pascal. And it has free, it says free in sync a cassette offer inside. These, because the Sweet Valley High, the original series, was, even though it was like had high school in the title, it was just focusing on their junior year. This is like the senior year, and this is like, these were, came out in the 90s. So no, this came out in 99. And comparing the two, because Sweet Valley High was written in the 80s, and this is like, you know, late 90s. This has so much more angst in it, and I don't want to say real life, but more, maybe a little bit more relatable to Jessica, for example, because Jessica in the original series, she is a character. She's evil, and like no one likes her. I don't know how her sister Elizabeth likes her, because there's two twin sisters. One's like the goody two shoes who wants to be a writer and, you know, follows the rules, and Jessica's always breaking the rules and turns everything possible into revolving around her. But in this one, Jessica is one of the main characters, because this one is written where you get, each chapter starts with like something like from their view. So you have Jessica, and you have Elizabeth, and a couple other characters. And Jessica, I don't have book 1. This is book 2. Because I just randomly found this. I don't own any other books in this series. I think when I looked it up, there was 30 or 40 or 50 books in this series, something like that. But for sure, these, same as the Sweet Valley High, whether for the 80s and from the 80s, this for sure is like feeling like it's from the 90s. I feel like I could probably be listening to NSYNC while reading this book. But yeah, anyway, all that to say, all those digressions to say, I actually really liked, not really liked it, because again, GarbAugust book, but it was very readable. Like, I sat down and I read it in like well under an hour, and I didn't want to put it down at any point. So I think that's good for a GarbAugust book. But you're following multiple characters. Jessica, you feel, like I mentioned before, you feel bad for her because something happened in the first book that this kind of touches on. But I feel like you had to have read the first one really to get the full picture. But again, with her making things about herself in like the previous series, she was caught kissing, I guess, or in a room with a boy, and come to find out he isn't single, and the girl is like after her. So in the second book, the girl is making Jessica's life just awful, like calling her names and writing things on the chalkboard and just doing constantly like pranking her, things like that. And then Elizabeth was interesting because, you know, she's like the goody two shoes ones of the first series, but in this one, she is dating like a bad boy, and her best friend is interested in the guy as well, and he seems kind of be interested in both of them. But Elizabeth like purposely says things to her friend to dissuade her from meeting the guy. So that was interesting to have this like little bit of a twist on Elizabeth's character. So yeah, if I had book 3, I would read it, but alas. Okay, so then the other GarbAugust book is Sweet Valley High super thriller, Murder on the Line. And this one came out in 92. As you can see, there's so many books in this series, but these are like spin-offs. And this is taking place over a summer internship at a newspaper. And Jessica, again, does not want to, you know, she's like the lazy one who doesn't want to work and just wants to go shopping and spend time at the beach. And she does play hooky several times from her internship to go and spend time with her best friend at the beach and go shopping and things like that. But along with doing that and getting out of work, when she's at work, she is supposed to be like proofreading and you know, writing things for the newspaper. Instead, she's on the phone pretending that she's making, or just got off calls or going to make a call, but instead she's snooping because something is wrong with the phone lines. And so she's like picking up random people's conversations that are like on the phone at the office. And so she comes to find out that there's like 2 bad guys who are like conspiring together, and there's some kind of shipments going all on that seems kind of illegal, and then they also talk about a dead body, and then oh, come to find out there's a dead body washed up on the beach, and so now she's on the case to figure this out, and then Elizabeth gets pulled in, and so yeah, this like again a little fast paced thriller. I would say for modern definition of thriller, this would not be that. It's for sure just a plain mystery, but again, it was readable, and I read it easily under an hour. So yeah, there's that. Okay, so then I went with this book isn't on my TBR because some of the prompts for the deck of TBRs I couldn't pick solely from the books I had on my TBR, but I'm still getting books off my shelf, so that's always nice. And so this is a book I recently picked up when I was doing some book shopping in Portland for the Portland Book Week. I think I'll name it Portland Book Week because it was the first year where they are doing like separate from the Independent Bookstore Day. They were hosting their own Portland Bookstore Day, basically, where all the stores were promoting something. Like you would get like a sticker, or you would get like free little items, or you get a discount. Not all of them, but there's always some kind of activity. I felt like going with all the bookstores. And so with that, I was able to go to several bookstores that I had never gone to before. And so this is one where I picked this up out. Anyway, long story short with that. So Phyllis A. Whitney, The Fire and the Gold. And this, I think, came out, it's one of her older books. It came out in 1956. This edition was from 1974. But it's taking place in San Francisco. And if you haven't read any Phyllis A. Whitney, each of her books is a different location. So I feel like with Phyllis A. Whitney, you like travel the world with all these settings. But in this one, it's San Francisco, and it's like when the big earthquake is happening that like ruined the town and like started the fires and things like that. And so the main character, her name is Melora, and she is traveling back to San Francisco the day that the earthquake happens. And so at first, she's struggling to find her family and get reconnected with them. And then the book opens up, but there's no spoiler here, that she is like in a fake engagement with the son that her family always wanted her to be with. And so like they're like, fine. Just to get you off her back, we will have this engagement, but neither one of them are committed to it. Just like, kind of like a placeholder. So that way she has the freedom to do what she wants to do, and same with the guy. And so, the story takes place from there. But yeah, this was pretty good as well. Not as like gothic and spooky as her other books. I think probably because it's from 1956, it's one of her earlier books. But still has like that mystery, and you're following, like a young woman, making mistakes and things like that. Okay, then switching to middle grade books, I read The Midwife's Apprentice by Karen Cushman. I think I mentioned this book in a previous video, how it opens up with the main character being called like beetle, like a dung beetle, because she was found in like a trash heap because it was giving off warmth, because it's like taking place in like, what years this is. I never mentioned it, but it's like, like the medieval times. And so there's no orphanage foster care or anything like that for these orphans, and so she's just trying to get by. So she befriends a cat, and then she gets a job earning just a little bit of bread and soup, things like that, and like being an apprentice to a midwife. What was interesting is the midwife isn't someone you would necessarily root for at all, but at the end of the book, even though the main character knows the midwife is is very stern and doesn't hold anything back and is very critical, she still decides to stay with her. And I thought that was very interesting, because I feel like you don't often see that, especially with middle grade, like more gray characters. Okay, The Babysitter's Club by Anne M. Martin. This is a graphic novel. I had just found this at a local free library, I think a week ago. So yeah, with this deck of TBR, I like how I'm like picking older books and newer books. It's been lots of fun. So this is the graphic novel was adapted by Gail Galligan, and this is Dawn and the Impossible 3, book 5. And so I have already read this book in the series. I didn't read these as a kid, but I have been reading the series. I think I'm on book 40 or 50 or so. But yeah, so it's been too long since I read this book, but long enough to where it was like, I didn't feel like bored, rereading it so quickly, because it's been several years ago. But in this one, Dawn, who is the California girl who gets moved to the East Coast with the long blonde hair. She's always described in the books. She gets an assignment to take care of 3 rowdy kids because their mom recently got divorced. And so she is like up to here with all of her responsibilities and with dealing with the 3 kids and, you know, running the household and working and things like that. And so Dawn is really put into the spot of being like a second mother to them. And so that's the conflict here. Like, eventually she feels like she's doing it too much and the mom is putting everything on Dawn's shoulder. But it all works out in the end. Okay, then I have When You Reach Me by Rebecca Stead. Yay for kicking off another Newbery book. And this one is following Miranda, and she is receiving mysterious notes. This was very interesting because she's a reader, and so all along she's reading A Wrinkle in Time. And she's getting these notes, and they're very mysterious. Is there anything... Oh, yeah, the back here, one of the notes says, I am coming to save your friend's life and my own. I ask 2 favors. First, you must write me a letter. And so a lot of it, it's like rhymes almost. Like, you can't figure out what's going on with these notes. But yeah, the ending was very interesting. I don't know if I liked it or not because it did end up, I don't want to spoil it, but I was questioning, like, you know, are these letters real or not? But yeah, anyway, this and how it ended, it was just, and with the characters as well, not just like, not with the letters part. I was just, like the I don't know. It's hard for me to review this because I have mixed feelings on it. Like, the main character, she is dealing with her best friend who has, like, all of a sudden, out of the blue, you know, according to Miranda, decided that he doesn't want to be friends with her anymore. He wants to, you know, go off and, like, make his own friends. And so she feels, you know, very much alone and unwanted. And so then she's, you know, making these new friends, and you follow all through her eyes. And what was interesting is that towards the end of the book, you see, oh, I just take a step back. And you see how it wasn't all how Miranda interpreted things. So for that, I really liked it. I just don't know if I like the full storyline there. Okay, so then I read a couple of the Little House on the Prairie spinoff series. This is the Martha years, which is her, Laura Ingalls Wilder's great grandmother in Scotland. And this is the 4th book in that series, Beyond the Heather Hills by Melissa Wiley. And I very much wish that it had continued on in the series. I looked at this author and the series, and the Charlotte one as well, and both of them, they like, because all the rest of the books in these generational saga series, like Rose, Laura's daughter, and her mother Caroline, and, you know, Laura Ingalls Wilder books herself, they all had 7 or 8 books. But the first 2 generational saga series only have 4 each. And the author talked about in one of her, like, blog posts or something about how the publisher decided not to continue on with these books when they were after the first 4 books. And so that's why you don't follow Martha through to becoming an adult. It's hinted out here and there, like, you know what's happening in a way, because Martha is in these books because, you know, they're generational. And so Martha in Scotland ends up going to Boston, and now she's the mother of Charlotte. And so Martha is still a character in here, and it's by the same author, Melissa Wiley. This is Little House by Boston Bay. And so you at least you have a little bit of, like, some of the same characters in here are in this one, so that it helps a little bit. But still, I'm like, darn it, I wish we had more of these books, like at least 2 or 3 more to wrap it up, because it very much felt like you knew there was more story to tell, kind of thing. Like, how did you go from Scotland to Boston? I don't know yet. Maybe this series will touch on that, maybe not, I don't know. But this was good. It's let's see, it's set in 1814, and her father is a blacksmith and comes home sooty all the time. So this was just an introduction to the series. It was pretty small, like 194 pages. So really for this one, you're just getting the setup of the place and her family and meeting the brothers and sisters and things like that. And so here's like a little family tree for it. So this one is Charlotte, and so she's one of 5 children, and it gives you like their birth date and things like that. And then as you follow along, Martha, Charlotte, Caroline, and Laura, and then Rose here. Yeah, happy to be reading these. As I mentioned, Elizabeth over at Elizabeth Loves the Books, she always hosts an annual Little House on the Prairie readathon, and she's always talked about reading these books like with a whole like group read, and I'm going to be doing that. And I'll just reread these books whenever she did, you know, whenever we can do that, because like I said, I think before in previous videos, I know multiple times, but these books are mostly out of print, so they're hard to find. Okay, shifting gears completely to a classic. The Odyssey by Homer, translated by Robert Fagles. This is a book that I have tried to read off and on, but never committed myself, you know, throughout the years. But this is for the prompt. I remember this one. This one was over 400-page prompt, and so I thought because, you know, it wasn't, you know, it's like told like lyrically, that it would be quicker for me to get to, because I was on, you know, momentum, because I had just started this readathon. And it's like one of the first books I picked, so I didn't want to get, I don't want to say bogged down, but you know, I didn't want to slow my momentum at the very beginning of August with a huge, like, dense book. So, even though this has got, you know, dense in its own way, you get what I'm saying. I wanted to read like a quicker book. So this is a very pretty edition. There's French flaps and deckled edges and tons of notes, and all sorts of like interpretations and things, throughout here. So I feel like I had like the book I wanted to read if I was going to read the Odyssey. And the one thing is that I wish I was more versed in like the mythology of this world, because you follow many of the gods and, you know, what they're getting up to. I wish I knew more about what was going on behind the scenes of that. What are their motivation? Where is that coming from? And, you know, just seeing a name, I feel like if I had known the mythology of it, then I would, okay, oh yeah, I know exactly who that person is. And this book is kind of like, I feel like if I had, I just mentioned there's an introduction in here. If I had read that, it probably would have helped me. But I did read the Wikipedia page, so yeah, there's that. This is like a, you know, adventure story, and there's gods, you know, helping and hurting the main character along the way, kind of thing. And I could visualize a lot of it as I was reading it, so I'm very happy for that. I feel like I want to like maybe watch a movie, which I don't normally do with classics, but I feel like I want to watch a movie to like fully understand what's going on and then reread this. It's really what I would like to do. Okay. I have Cowgirls, Women of the American West by Teresa Jordan. This is following many people's interviews and back in the late 70s. And so you follow, it gives you the person's name, where they're at. So this is oh, Tootie Brocker. That name, my goodness. I'm from Sage Creek Limousine Ranch near Walden North Park, Colorado. And so you get their name, where they're from, where their ranch is, a picture, and then you get like an interview. Sometimes it was question and answer, but most of the time it was just like as you were reading their talk about it. And then sometimes you would get like pictures of when they were young, and then pictures of when they're older, or, you know, with their husband or what have you. And so this one followed cowgirls from the cradle. So, you know, girls who were raised in the cattle area, the mother-daughter ranchers who share that tradition, cowgirls and their ranching husbands, like their partners on the range. Cowgirls return back home, and then there's cowgirls that learn all the women who are doing this all by themselves, which I thought was fascinating. Cowgirls who become cowgirls later in life, you know, they weren't raised in that environment, and then women ranch hands who aren't actually owners of the ranch. And then it goes to like the history of it. So it goes like the original, like the Wild West in rodeo, 1885 onwards, and then you have the Rodeo Association, which was 1942 to 1981. So it covers, I feel like, everything imaginable that can be related to cowgirls, which all from this perspective of these like eyewitness accounts. And so I really appreciate it for that. And then the last book I wanted to talk about is a Library of America edition, Mark Twain, and I read Life on the Mississippi. And this is like a bind up of several of the books. And I'm very happy to have read this one. It's another book like the Odyssey. It's just been lingering on my shelves, but I thought, you know, why not summer? I feel like it's a perfect time to read it. And a book I've been recently thinking about when I was like perusing my shelves, as I do occasionally, like, oh yeah, I want to read that, and that kind of thing. But this is about his time as a young man in Hannibal, Missouri, and then you know, growing up, wanting, aspiring to be a steamboat captain. Well, that was like the job of the day, and then how, you know, that, you know, whole career whole like way of life went away, and then he as an adult way later on down the road is revisiting all of these towns and what he's learned since then, and how the towns look like, what they look like after all these years, and the people he meets. Oh yeah, I remember you, but it's hard for me to see your face. You know, I'm picturing this little kid, and now here you are with like wrinkles and gray hair, that kind of thing. Yeah, happy to have read that one. So those are all the books I've read this last week and a half, and yeah, like I said, going forward, I'm just gonna do like a daily vlog, I guess, but then have it all wrapped up in a vlog of sorts. But I don't know if I'm gonna do anything special to vlog about anything other than reading. We'll see how the week goes out, you know, how it plays out. But anyway, I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, BookTube.